November 15th, 2006. A Florida man buys a quick pick lottery ticket and wins a $31 million jackpot. But his very lucky and happily ever after is marred by greed, poor money management, and finally, murder. For a man who lived by the phrase, "it is better to give than to receive," the only thing he was given other than a lump sum of over $11 million was a death warrant by a woman who wanted nothing less than everything. This is the story of Abraham Shakespeare, Fortune's Fatal Fool. Hey y'all, I'm Kris Calvert.
And I'm her husband, Rob Potter. Welcome to Hitch to Homicide.
For better or worse.
Till death do us part.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome. And for our friends all the way over there in Cameroon.
Cameroon.
Yes. Bolabuam.
Nengue yung Boko from Cameroon.
Isn't that where Eddie Murphy was from in Trading Places?
Yeah, when they were in the train. Mumbali with him and Dan Aykroyd. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, from Sweden.
Please to put it in my rucksack.
That's a great movie. That's one of my go-tos.
It's a great 80s movie.
It's
great
awesome.
80s movie.
Awesome.
Well, wherever you are listening, be it Cameroon or somewhere else, be sure to like, rate, and review the podcast. That helps other people to find us, other people who like true crime.
Yes.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, all you have to do is hit that button below.
Yep.
You can find us on Instagram at Hitch2Homicide and on X at H2H_podcast. And if you want true crime every single day of the week, please go join our closed Facebook group. Go to Facebook, type in H2H In-Laws and Outlaws, answer a couple questions, you're in. We love those folks.
Yep.
They are absolutely the best. Halloween's coming up. It's the fall. Everybody's showing all kinds of great ways to mask, like putting a dead body in your front yard. What can I say?
I know, it's great.
Come in there, for true crime and decorating ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are plenty of decorating tips.
You can also send us a text message. If you go to the show notes at the very top, it says send Kris and Rob a text. We love getting those.
Yeah.
We also have a buy me a coffee link if you want to send Rob some coffee. He drinks it every single time we do a podcast.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the ones that have bought me a coffee so far. It's awesome.
He does. I'm still holding out for that Diet Mountain Dew link.
We're looking, desperately looking.
Not happening.
I know.
Well, Rob, we buy a lottery ticket every now and then, don't we?
Yeah, every once in a while.
It's usually Rob that does it.
Yeah.
I forget. I never think about it. But as we're recording this episode, Mega Millions, I believe, is close to $800 million for the drawing.
Yeah, I guess it's worth going to the store to get a ticket.
I'd buy a few dog biscuits.
Yeah.
But this story is about a guy who thought all his dreams were going to come true after he won the lottery, and it was all downhill from there. Before we get started, let me thank some sources. ABC News, Fox 13, Tampa Bay, Oxygen, the 13th Judicial Circuit Court of Florida, The Ledger, Wikipedia, Find a Grave, Murderpedia, the Tampa Bay Times, Cyber News, Floribama Murders, and the Tampa Tribune.
Okay. Well, you ready?
I am.
Let's do it.
Abraham Lee Shakespeare was born on April 24th, 1966 in Lakeland, Florida. Abraham is the son of Elizabeth Walker. His father was a citrus picker there in Florida. This is a really big orange grove area.
Okay.
Abraham will drop out of school after the 7th grade, and I read that he really couldn't read or write. He was sort of functionally illiterate.
Really?
To which I have to ask, how did he make it to the 7th grade without being able to read?
Yeah.
Abraham did have an older brother by a different father. His name is Robert Brown. Abraham grew up in Lake Wales, Florida, and spent time in homes for juvenile delinquents because Abraham's going to have a little bit of a criminal record from pretty early on.
Okay.
He will father a child with Antoinette Andrews. They'll have a son. They name him Moses. Great name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about Moses and his mom a little bit later on.
Okay.
But over the years, Abraham's going to have several run-ins with the law. He didn't have a driver's license. He didn't own a credit card. He got in fights and he hit people. And he's arrested for battery. He would loiter and steal. He was arrested for criminal mischief, shoplifting. He would drive when he didn't have a driver's license and get picked up for speeding. And he got in trouble for not paying child support for his children.
But other than that, jeez.
So he's got this long criminal record, but it's mostly misdemeanors. He's not killing anybody. He's
Right.
not carrying a weapon. But yes, he does have a criminal record.
Okay.
In several instances, the charges are going to be dropped, and in others, he served some jail time or paid some court costs. When he gets out of jail in 1995, he moves in with his mother. He works odd jobs. He was a garbage man. He unloaded trucks. He washed dishes. He did day labor type of jobs
Sure.
from like job pools.
Okay.
And on November 15th, 2006, when Abraham is 41 years old with $5 to his name, he was working a job pool job when he was assigned to ride shotgun for a truck driver named Michael Ford on an overnight food route to Miami.
All right.
He's making $8 an hour.
Wow.
These two made a delivery in Lakeland, Florida, and then another in Winter Haven. Then they stopped at the town Mini Mart in Frostproof, Florida.
Okay.
Frostproof, Florida. Not going to get any frost on those oranges, apparently. Michael Ford is stopping at this Minute Mart because he wants cigarettes and a soda. And Michael asked Abraham, "Do you want anything?"
Right.
And he said that he wanted a pair of quick picks for the Florida lottery. And when Michael gets back in the truck, Abraham gives him $4 and he picked these numbers: 6, 12, 13, 34, 42, and 52.
Let me commit those to memory before I go to the store.
Write them down. That night, the jackpot was $31 million.
Okay.
And Abraham Shakespeare was the sole winner of the lottery that night.
Wow.
Quite a turn of events for a man who has $5 to his name.
Yeah.
Abraham turns in the ticket and takes a lump sum of $16.9 million. And after taxes, he had $11 million in change in his bank account.
Wow.
Abraham thinks it's a dream come true, right?
Yeah.
Well, he owed some back child support, and the government took it, $9,000 to be exact.
Okay.
And then he set up a $1 million trust fund for his son,
Nice.
Moses.
Good for him.
Now, everyone knew about Abraham's good fortune, and everyone seemed to want a piece of him.
Mm-hmm.
He gave his stepfather $1 million. He gave his 3 stepsisters $250,000 apiece. He paid off a $185,000 mortgage for a friend. He paid off a $60,000 mortgage for a man whose last name he didn't know. And he paid off $53,000 of a mortgage for a man, quote, out of the neighborhood, end quote, who he'd been, quote, knowing for a few years, end quote. He spent $125,000 on a house near Lake Wales that he had only seen once and rented it to some tenants he had only met once. He gave his brother's son's best friend, did you follow that one?
Yes.
Brother's son's best friend, $40,000.
Jeez.
He gave his mother $12,000 and his sister $10,000. He wrote Wachovia cashier's checks to friends. He paid for funerals. People would come to him unable to pay their mortgage on their homes, and Abraham would pay it for them, or he would pay off the mortgage, and then the person would pay Abraham the mortgage payments. He's going to do this numerous times.
I wonder how much of that money he saw.
Yeah. He's buying a lot of things for people. For himself, in January of 2007, Abraham bought a 2006 F-150 pickup truck, a 2007 BMW 750i,
Wow.
and a new home in a gated community, a brick and tan stucco house on Red Hawk Bend Drive in a rural area north of Lakeland, Florida. It was a 6,500 square foot home with an enclosed pool, two-car garages, and a surveillance camera system.
He's blowing through this.
His real estate agent was a woman named Barbara Jackson. Now, he bought the house in January of 2007 for about $1.1 million. He also bought himself a Nissan Altima and a Rolex watch, which he purchased from a pawn shop. 3 months after he bought the new house in April of 2007, Abraham is sued by Michael Ford, the truck driver who physically bought the tickets that Abraham paid for. The winning ticket, according to Michael Ford, was his, and the money, or at least what was left of it, should be his too, because Abraham stole the winning ticket from his wallet.
Oh, God.
Michael Ford claimed he had put the tickets in his wallet, which he stowed inside a compartment in his truck. He claimed Abraham stole the tickets out of his wallet and cashed the winning ticket for $17 million.
Wow.
In a deposition before the trial, Abraham said, quote, "He knows the truth. I know the truth," end quote. The case turned on the testimony of 5 co-workers, all of whom testified that Michael Ford initially told them that he purchased the tickets for Abraham Shakespeare. Only later did he change his story to say that Abraham stole them. Abraham told reporters after, quote, "When I pull up at a convenience store next time, I'll buy my own lottery ticket," end quote.
Yeah.
At the trial, Abraham came to court hauling a garbage bag stuffed with thousands of lottery tickets he had purchased over the years. On October 19, 2007, it took the jury only a little over an hour to rule in Abraham Shakespeare's favor, saying he didn't steal the winning ticket from Michael Ford's wallet. Ford's going to appeal this decision, but for the time being, Abraham felt vindicated, telling the press, quote, "I want to be able to turn the phone completely off and not have to worry about any phone calls. My goal is to be able to wake up in the morning, get a fishing pole, and go fish, or go hunting, or golfing. I ain't never golfed before," end quote.
Doing the bull dance, feeling the flow, working.
That's great.
Michael would appeal the ruling. Abraham will never make it to the final meeting with his attorney.
Oh, no.
The attorneys around the case have said that Abraham was a, quote, "angry guy whose post-lotto loans and gifts came with strings attached," end quote. He even distanced himself from his best friend, Greg Massey, who was trying to get him to be smart with his money. And Abraham liked all the attention that he was getting, but he didn't like the fact that people would call him and ask to borrow money all the time.
Of course.
And others kind of said that Abraham's family, at least some of them, were unhappy with the amount of money he'd given them. But according to Abraham, quote, "The Bible states it's better to give than to receive," end quote. He told attorneys about some of the women who had been living with him in his new Red Hawk home. He mentioned 3. He knew the last name of only one of them.
Wow.
Quote, "I don't try to get to know nobody's last names," end quote. Now, it's hard to believe that someone who only had $5 to his name when he won the lottery could blow through $11 million, but that's exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted a piece of Abraham's pie. His friend Samuel Jones said, quote, "He really didn't understand it at all. It was moving so fast, it changed his life in a bad way," end quote. Abraham had a hard time maintaining genuine relationships after he won all this money. His friend Greg Massey, the one who was trying to get him to be smart with it, said, quote, "It wasn't about the money with him, and it wasn't about being selfish," end quote. In fact, before Abraham and Greg even see each other again after Abe wins the lottery, by the time Greg sees him to congratulate him, Abraham's already given away $1.75 million.
Jeez. Wow.
Now, I want you to meet a woman, Dee Dee Moore, or Doris Moore.
Okay.
Doris, or Dee Dee Donegan, was born on July 25th, 1972. She married a man named James Moore in 1992 when she's 20, and they have a son together in 1995. His name is Robert James. He goes by RJ.
Okay.
In June of 2001, things aren't going so well for Dee Dee. She's having a hard time paying her bills, including the payment on her new Lincoln Navigator, a $36,000 car which she owed $46,000 on.
Wow.
How's that possible? I don't even know.
That's called being upside down 3 or 4
Apparently,
times.
I
Yeah.
don't even know how that works. Some banker, send me an email and explain to me how you have a $36,000 car and you owe $46,000 on the loan.
Wow.
She parked the Navigator in a garage in Pasco County, Florida, and got an accomplice to tie her up, to take her to Wamama and throw her in a ditch.
Okay.
She told a passerby who stopped to help that she had been raped at gunpoint by 3 Hispanic men who then stole her Navigator.
Please help me.
She claimed that she'd been carjacked, kidnapped, and sexually assaulted at gunpoint. She provides a detailed description of her alleged abductors and even undergoes a rape examination.
Really?
But the detectives who are working on the case are like,
Something
something's
ain't right.
hinky.
Yeah.
Yeah, something ain't right. And they figure out that Dee Dee is lying through her teeth about the whole entire story. She staged the whole thing in order to keep her car from being repossessed. Now, you got to hand it to her.
Yeah.
That's some criminal masterminding right there.
She's watching a lot of TV.
She pleaded no contest to the misdemeanor charge related to the false report and was sentenced to 1 year of probation. So she's convicted of insurance fraud and falsely reporting a crime.
Okay.
In 2002, Dee Dee filed for bankruptcy, to no one's surprise, a year later,
Yeah.
and she's had a string of shady business dealings, like strange real estate deals. She embezzled money from one of her employers, and she was even suspected of arson.
Wow.
But by 2006, Dee Dee had a nursing staffing company. It was called American Medical Professionals. She was also dating a 23-year-old man named Shar Kranaskishi. Dee Dee is a cougar, and she's still married.
Oh, wow.
He's 23.
Jeez.
But by October of 2008, Dee Dee knew exactly who Abraham Shakespeare was, the man who'd won $30 million in the lottery. What she doesn't know is that he's given most of it away, and he's still in a court case with Michael Ford.
Okay.
You see, in November of 2008, Dee Dee meets Barbara Jackson at an annual small business conference in Kissimmee, Florida. Barbara was the real estate broker who sold Abraham Shakespeare his home on Red Hawk Bend.
Ah.
And when Barbara meets Dee Dee, Dee Dee's in a wheelchair and says she's been in an accident. Dee Dee tells Barbara that she's a writer and she wanted to do a story on Abraham Shakespeare or maybe even a book.
What do I want? I want to be a writer, but I suck.
So Barbara Jackson, this real estate agent, set up the meeting between Abraham and Dee Dee.
Okay.
Dee Dee approaches Abraham telling him that she wants to write this book about his rags to riches story. And after they talk a bit and she hears of his financial woes, she tells him that she, this high-powered businesswoman, could help him manage his money. She's going to help him get a grip on the whole situation. He tells her that he's given a lot of it away, and she tells him that she can help him collect those unpaid debts and protect him from people trying to take advantage of him. And when Dee Dee takes over, Abraham has about $3.5 million in assets and money. This is including his house.
Gee whiz.
That's a lot of money gone in a really short period of time. And
Yeah.
$3.5 million in assets, that's nothing to scoff at, obviously.
Right. But he started off with 11?
Yeah, he won 30, and then after taxes and everything, he ended up with 11.
Jeez.
So Abraham allows Dee Dee to become his financial advisor, and by January of 2009, Abraham had signed over the ownership of his home. He transfers it over to American Medical Professionals, Dee Dee's company.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2009, records at the Polk County Courthouse are going to show that Abraham's home and other properties were sold or assigned to American Medical Professionals. Of the $570,000 debt that was owed to Abraham, more than 2/3 were owned by American Medical Professionals, Dee Dee's
Wow.
company.
Wow.
He sold his assets to Dee Dee for basically 5 cents on the dollar.
Oh, my gosh.
Now that's a financial advisor.
Yeah.
Now, a little side story. A 13-year-old girl named Kayla Gunn meets a boy named Howard Bogan Stitzel. He goes by Bogan at church. They're both 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And these two start dating. And subsequently, Kayla's mom, Shannon Gunn, meets Bogan's father, Howard, who is an attorney. But these two 13-year-olds break up in October of 2008. 13-year-olds don't stay together too long.
Right.
But a few weeks later, Kayla meets R.J. Moore, Dee Dee's son. And because these two kids need their parents in order to date because they can't drive, Shannon Gunn meets R.J.'s mom, Dee Dee Moore. Then one day in December of 2008, Kayla and her mom went to Dee Dee and R.J.'s house for lunch. And when they got there was an African-American man there with dreadlocks. He's super tall. And he's giving Kayla a hard time for drinking too many energy drinks, telling her, quote, "Girl, you better slow down. You could have a heart attack," end quote. It's Abraham Shakespeare.
Oh.
Later, Dee Dee is going to tell Shannon Dunn who Abraham is, saying that people were trying to rip him off, and asks her, "Do you know a good attorney?" And Shannon immediately thinks of Howard Stitzel, because she'd gotten to know that family when Kayla was dating Bogan Stitzel.
Oh,
And
okay.
she gives Dee Dee Howard's name.
Oh,
Howard is going to rue the day that this actually happens.
Really?
Poor Howard Stitzel.
oh man.
But Abraham's going around to all the people who owed him money, and he's introducing them to Dee Dee. So he's actively introducing her to people, and I think he was thinking of her as like his strong arm
Strong arming?
who could get money from people who owed him without him needing to feel or be an asshole asking for his money back.
Right.
Abraham was tired of people calling him and harassing him for money, so Dee Dee agreed to be this financial advisor, this gatekeeper, and the strong arm when it was time to get money from people that he had loaned it to.
Okay.
The next month, February 2009, Dee Dee and Abraham stroll into the Bank of America and meet a bank official named Doug Hancock. Dee Dee has a $1.1 million check Abraham had received from Prudential Annuities, and these two open an account for Abraham Shakespeare, LLC, a company that attorney Howard Stitzel has set up. And Abraham deposits the entire check into this account where both he and Dee Dee were authorized to write checks. And after this, Dee Dee grabs Doug Hancock and drags him back into his office alone and tells him, "You call me if Abraham tries to withdraw any of his own money."
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I think she's trying to make it out that she's protecting Abraham
Yeah.
by having this conversation.
Right.
She thinks she's really smart.
Right.
But let's remember, this is a woman who tried to fake a carjacking and rape in order not to have her Lincoln Navigator repoed.
Yeah, exactly.
And it didn't work.
Right.
On February 13th, 2009, Dee Dee divorces her husband of 17 years. Well, yeah, she got a 23-year-old guy that she's seeing.
Yep.
Then a couple days later, Bank of America officer Doug Hancock discovers that Dee Dee has given herself sole authority to write checks out of Abraham Shakespeare, LLC by showing the bank minutes of an Abraham Shakespeare, LLC board meeting that gave her that power. By the way, the minutes listed her as the only attendee at the board meeting.
And they bought that?
I guess. I don't know how much of a board meeting it is when you don't have
Jeez.
when you have a quorum of one.
Yeah.
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 And Doug Hancock is out on the golf course.
The golf course, of course.
Where all good bankers should be. Nothing against you, Doug. When he gets a call that Dee Dee had asked for a $250,000 cashier's check. And according to Doug, quote, the money disappeared very rapidly, end quote.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Exactly. Now, why does Dee Dee need $250,000? Well, Dee Dee buys a $70,000, actually $70,390.86 2008 Corvette.
Oh, wow.
At a Chevy dealer for her boyfriend,
What?
Shar, and gives it to him for Valentine's Day. She paid for it with a cashier's check from her company, American Medical Professionals. She also gave Shar, the 23-year-old boy, a Rolex.
Good grief.
2 weeks later, she buys herself a $90,000 2009 Hummer, and she goes on vacation.
Wow.
Now, a little while after this, Dee Dee called the banker, Doug Hancock, and she's, quote, almost hysterical, end quote, saying that Abraham was trying to kill her over how she'd handled the money. And after this, Dee Dee drops by the bank and gives Doug a check for $20,000. This is a personal check to Doug for $20,000 as a thank you for, quote, keeping Abraham away from the money, end quote.
Okay.
It's now the end of March 2009. By the way, Doug turned the check over to bank security. He didn't keep the $20,000.
Yeah, good for him.
By the 1st of April, Dee Dee has started a new company, and she made Shar, her 23-year-old boyfriend, the CEO.
Oh, this is getting better and better.
Also in early April, Abraham asks his old friend Greg Massey for advice about managing his money. You see, because when he was known as the guy who would help anyone pay for anything, rent, groceries, funerals, anything that anybody needed, there were constant requests for money, and no one was really all that surprised when Abraham started pulling back and distancing himself from people.
Right.
He tells his friend Greg that he stopped answering his phone. And in fact, the last call he made was on April 9th, 2009. And after that, he only made contact with Dee Dee Moore. He told his best buddy that, quote, I thought all these people were my friends, but then I realized all they want is just money. I'd have been better off broke, end quote. Which is so sad.
Exactly.
I mean, if you win this kind of money, go do good things. I mean, he had the right idea.
Yeah.
He just, he didn't know how to direct it correctly.
Right.
Dee Dee also films Abraham on April 9th while he's looking at surveillance footage of his home. And he says in this little video she films that he wants to leave. He wants to get away from everyone. He wants to maybe leave town. She's asking him, do you want to go to Mexico? Where do you want to go? And he's like, anywhere away from here. But filming this and getting him to say he wants to run away is all a part of Dee Dee's plans.
Yeah.
From the $1 million she had signed over to her, Dee Dee takes out $350,000 more and buys a house next to her own on Highway 20 East in Plant City, Florida. Also in the month of February, Howard Stitzel, his attorney, and Judith Haggins, Abraham's driver, both received about $20,000 apiece from Abraham Shakespeare, LLC.
Okay.
Now, sometime around April 9th, when she takes this video, Abraham goes to Dee Dee's home located at 5732 Highway 60 East in Plant City, Florida. There, Dee Dee uses a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson to kill Abraham by shooting him twice in the chest.
Wow.
Then Dee Dee arranged for her ex-husband to use a backhoe to dig a hole to bury construction debris behind a house near her own, the one she just bought.
Right.
So her husband, ex-husband, I should say,
Right.
he comes back with the backhoe, digs the hole. She waits until he's gone, and she dumps Abraham's body in the hole, covers it up just enough, then calls back her ex-husband to come and fill in the hole at night when it's dark.
Wow.
After this, she has concrete poured over top of this area.
She thought it through.
She did.
Wow.
By the end of April, no one has seen Abraham. And by November of 2009, Abraham's friends and family are starting to worry. His cousin, Cedric Edom, calls Polk County Sheriff's Office and he's reporting him missing. He does this on November 9th, saying that, I haven't seen Abe in 5 months. And police talk to Cedric, but he can't really shed any light on where his cousin is. What he does say was that he thought Dee Dee Moore was somehow involved. So police start talking to Abraham's friends and family. And one of the things police are told is that Greg Massey, who was a friend of Abraham's, was his financial advisor. And he tells police that he'd not seen or heard of Abraham since April.
Right.
But when someone goes missing and there are no clues, sometimes all you need to do is follow the money.
Right.
So they start looking at everyone who borrowed money from Abraham or managed money for Abraham. The list is long.
Yeah.
Was one of these people involved? Because now, with him gone, no one would need to pay their mortgage back to Abe or back to Dee Dee. Remember, he's introduced her to everyone saying she's going to be collecting the money.
Right.
So police subpoena financial records, and what they see is that Cedric, his cousin who reported him missing, is one of those people who Abe took over his mortgage for him.
Right.
And Cedric owes him money because Abraham bought his house. And without Abe around, the police are thinking, so is that why he waited 7 months? Is that why Cedric waited 7 months?
Sure.
And Cedric had a history with law enforcement. And it's at this point he changes his mind and says, I don't want to be involved in this missing persons investigation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm out.
But of course, they're barking up the wrong tree.
Right.
They can see from the financial records that Dee Dee was the one who was in charge. They subpoena the phone records of Abraham, and they see that he's getting 500 phone calls a day.
Holy cow.
These people are all asking for something. But after April 9th, it stops. Except for phone calls from Dee Dee Moore. But Howard Stitzel drew up the papers. He draws up all these papers for these LLCs to be formed.
Sure.
So Detective David Wallace goes to Howard's office, and Howard tells him that he can't comment on the detail of his conversations with Abraham, but that he could confirm that he spoke with Abraham on Dee Dee Moore's cell phone on October 6th, 2009.
So now the reason he couldn't comment was that attorney-client privilege?
Yes.
Okay.
Also interviewed that day is Dee Dee Moore herself, who is now living in, surprise, surprise, Abraham's $1 million house with her 23-year-old boyfriend.
What?
Yeah.
Jeez.
She tells the police she insists that he has disappeared because he wanted to, and she helped him to do it. And apparently, according to these police officers, she's really convincing too. When she's talking to the police saying things like, let me just text him. He'll get right back with me. I'll text him. And of course, this never happens. Then she calls Abraham and leaves a message while she's in front of the police saying things like, the police are asking about you. Will you please call me back? She's putting on a really good show.
Right.
The police aren't buying everything that Dee Dee's saying. And the family and friends, they start putting out flyers for tips and a $5,000 reward for anybody who knows the whereabouts of Abraham Shakespeare. But the rumor mill is churning at the same time. There were people who were saying that he was in the hospital dying of AIDS. There were some who said he'd moved away. And some people were saying, Abraham Shakespeare, he's dead. His best friend, Eddie Dixon, said while pointing to the sign at the Super Choice, a place that was a regular hangout for Abraham, he said, quote, only thing I know is that's my best friend. Y'all need to go ask that white woman where that man at, end quote.
Wow.
Go ask that white woman.
Wow.
He's right.
Yeah.
Well, the white woman, better known as Dee Dee, is living in Abraham's house, shacked up with her boyfriend. Her company owns the house, remember? And Dee Dee is telling Abraham's family and friends that she's helped him disappear. That's what he wanted.
Well, she did.
She did. One way or the other.
Yeah.
She tells them he was falling behind on child support again because he'd had a second son just the year before to a much younger woman. And Abraham was tired of people bugging him for money.
Right.
But police aren't buying what Dee Dee is selling, and they get a subpoena for her phone records.
Oh.
And when they get them, they compare the location records of Abraham's phone and Dee Dee's phone. And what they realize is that after April 9th, every so-called phone conversation between Abraham and Dee Dee, they're in the exact same location.
Well, when you and I talk to each other on the phone, we're usually in the kitchen.
And now police are like, come on, Dee Dee, just tell us what you know. They call her in again on December 3rd, 2009. They ask her if she has his phone. And she says, no, I don't have Abraham's phone. And when they tell her they know his phone is with her, she tells them that, well, okay, I've got it, but he wanted me to keep his phone. That the plan that Abraham put together before he left town was for her to text people from his phone that he left with her so the police wouldn't track him. Now, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, nice try. Nice try, Dee Dee. She was thinking on her feet, but yeah, she's not a very good dancer.
And police ask her, if you had Abraham's phone, then why did Abraham call the attorney Howard Stitzel on October 6th from your phone?
Yeah.
And Dee Dee says that neither she nor Howard spoke with Abraham on that date. And detectives Wallace and Clark ask her, by the way, Wallace and Clark, it made me think of Lewis and Clark the whole time.
Yeah.
Detectives Wallace and Clark, they ask her why he said that, and she tells them that she asked Howard Stitzel to lie to help her. Then Dee Dee calls Howard Stitzel from the police station, and this call is taped. And during the call, Dee Dee tells Howard that the detectives were asking her about the call where they both talked to Abraham on October 6th. And she tells him that she's worried the police are going to find out that they didn't speak to Abraham on that day, and she wanted to confirm that's what he had told the police. And when Dee Dee asks Howard what would happen if she told the police that she had Abraham's phone, he told her to stop talking to the police.
Shut your stinking trap!
Yeah.
What does every attorney say?
Yeah.
Stop talking.
Yep.
During this same interview with Dee Dee on December 3rd, detectives Wallace and Clark questioned her about the money and the property transfers into her name, and she tells them about the child support and that he transferred the money out of his name on purpose so nobody could go after it.
Right.
And when they ask where the phone is, she says, oh, his phone that I've now admitted to having, I tossed it out of the car a few days ago on I-4.
She's not helping herself.
She says Abraham didn't want to be tracked, and they know Dee Dee is lying about something, or she's lying about everything.
Yeah. Yep.
They don't want her to know that they think that she is a suspect. And I've seen some of these interviews. They're really good at it because she's just being real conversational. They're being real conversational back. And in the back of their minds, you're like, this woman is guilty as sin.
Yep.
Guilty as sin.
So police keep asking her, and they're telling her that they support her and they believe her. And Dee Dee tries to get ahead of this story because she's been to the police. You know, the attorney's saying, don't talk to anybody.
Right.
There are people who are saying he has AIDS. There are people who are saying he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes herself to the press when Abraham's friends and family decide they're going to go public with looking for him, that he's a missing person.
Okay.
She tells 3 different reporters that she could set up an interview with Abraham. It never happens.
Right.
She tells Abraham's mother that she could set up a meeting with him. It never happens.
Right.
When a reporter tells Dee Dee that she's heard that Abraham is dead, Dee Dee says to her, quote, he's not dead, end quote.
Wow.
The newspaper, The Ledger, had a 3-hour interview with Dee Dee. She tells them all about how she met Abraham and that she wanted to write his rags to riches story. She thought he was fascinating. She tells reporters that when she met him, he'd already burned through $11 million, and a lot of that was in loans to family and friends. She explains that he'd sold a lot of his assets to her to collect on, and then he'd left town.
Okay.
And she tells the Ledger newspaper reporters that Cedric, the cousin, wanted to cast her in a bad light so that she would be under investigation. And he wouldn't have to worry about paying his mortgage payment anymore, which, according to Dee Dee, he hadn't paid in months.
Wow.
So it's also around this time that one of the site members of Web Sleuths, I'm sure lots of our listeners are on Web Sleuths. It's a
Right.
forum.
Yeah.
Somebody posted on this website where lovers of true crime can chat about theories and even solve some crimes. One of the Web Sleuths members dug up a bunch of stuff on Dee Dee, like her bankruptcy filing, which actually showed that Dee Dee was a con artist. And as more and more people are looking for Abraham, Dee Dee starts to panic.
Yeah, rightfully so, right?
And this is when a new person on Web Sleuth's forum who was interested in the case of Abraham starts posting in this forum and is really interested in vindicating Dee Dee as a person of interest in this case.
Okay.
Oh, it couldn't be Dee Dee. It's not Dee Dee. She's been so good to him. I know her.
Gee, I wonder who this person was.
It's Dee Dee.
That's exactly. The minute you started going there, I'm like, it's her.
She goes in to defend herself in this Web Sleuths forum. She even wrote an email to the CEO of Web Sleuths to say that it wasn't her on the forum posting, that she was innocent, but it was her friends. To which the Web Sleuths replied back to her saying, well, your friends must have broken into your house and used your computer to post in the forum because the IP address for those posts matches the IP address of this very email.
Oh, that's great.
She thinks she's smart.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So remember we talked about following the money. So police followed the money, who had access to Abraham's money while he's gone or away, and all roads lead back to Dee Dee. Not to mention, the Ledger newspaper has shared with police what Dee Dee said in the interview with them. And they're surprised that she never mentioned this to them when they interviewed her. So police bring her in to have a chat again.
Let's chat.
And this time she shows them the video she took of Abraham watching surveillance footage around his house while standing in his bedroom. It's April 9th. He's saying he's not a picky person and he just wants to leave town. And she's questioning him, saying things like, quote, are you getting tired of people asking you for money, end quote. And he says that he wants to get away. So police are like, is he in hiding? Did he really leave on his own? Because they do have this video.
Right.
And police ask her, you left that message for him and said he'd call you. Have you heard from him? And she calls him again from the police station and leaves a message about how the police really need to know that he's okay. By Christmas 2009, Abraham's mother is upset she's not seeing her son for the holidays, and the police put a little bug in Dee Dee's ear that Abraham has never missed a Christmas with his mother. So while police are watching Dee Dee like a hawk, Dee Dee wrote a letter to Abraham's mom claiming to be Abraham, saying in the letter that he was all right. It was 2 pages long. Dee Dee tried really hard to cover her tracks with this. She had a brand new laptop. She set up a printer. She had on rubber gloves while writing this letter and printing it off at a Comfort Inn while wearing a, quote, scarf pullover type thing over her head, end quote.
Just so there wouldn't be any hairs or DNA.
I mean, seriously?
Wow.
The letter said in part, quote, don't worry about Dee. There are too many people that I know I left. I gave her enough money. She would not take anything from me unless I agreed, end quote. And how might we know that she did all this from a hotel room wearing a disguise? Well, because of a friend of Abraham's named Gregory Smith, who agreed to help Dee Dee for a fee. And on top of that, Greg Smith owed Abraham money. On Christmas, Dee Dee texts his friends and family to appease them. And on December 26, 2009, Dee Dee has Gregory Smith call Abraham's mom, pretending to be Abraham, saying, I'm all right, Mom. By the way, Dee Dee Moore is sitting with Abraham's mother eating dinner when this happens. Dee Dee is with his mom when Greg Smith calls, pretending to be Abraham. When police ask his mother if he sounded like himself, she said no, but he told her he had a cold. And police ask her about the phone call, and they ask to see the phone with the number Abraham called, and she gives it to police. It's a private number, so it's been blocked, But the police can go to the phone carrier,
Yeah.
it was Sprint,
Sure.
and find out what that number is
Of course.
and what tower is pinging from. And they do, and they discover that the phone call came from a phone owned by Greg Smith. And the GPS location was at the Lakeland Mall.
Ugh.
So the police drive over to the Lakeland Mall. They can see where this phone is.
Right.
It's December 27th. The mall is packed, and police are sitting in the parking lot at this mall. And who drives in? Dee Dee Moore. She gets out of the car and into a passenger seat of another car. It's a black man in the driver's seat, and the police can see her giving an envelope of cash to this man. They can see this through the binoculars, and they're taking photos. And when they part ways, the police follow the other car, not Dee Dee.
Right.
David Clark stops his car. Woo, woo, woo. They pull him over.
Yep.
And they tell Greg Smith, you need to talk to us about a homicide case. You're
Yep.
going to need to cooperate or we're going to arrest you.
Mhm.
And he says, well, I guess I need to cooperate.
It didn't take a lot of convincing.
Didn't take a whole lot of convincing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So he sang like a canary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they take him to the sheriff's office and they question him. And they talk to him and he says, Dee Dee paid me to call Abraham's mother and pretend to be Abraham. When they ask him about Abraham, he tells him that I don't know where he is.
Yeah.
I have no idea. And that Dee Dee told him to make the call and that would get the police off of her back.
Right.
She's paid him to make several phone calls, in fact, including one to the Polk County Sheriff's Detective's Office saying he had seen Abraham in Miami. Yeah.
Wow.
So when they dig deeper on Greg, they discover there's a house that Abraham bought for Greg that Greg is paying back the mortgage for to Dee Dee. He borrowed $63,000. He'd owed money to Abe, but now he owes it to Dee Dee.
Right.
And now she's holding this over his head. They talk to him for 3 hours, and they tell him that he's really stepped in it. And Greg says, what do you want me to do? I'll do anything to help. Tell me what you want me to do.
Yep.
So Greg is now on the inside for the police. And for the next couple of weeks, when Greg met with Dee Dee, he was wearing a wire.
Oh, wow.
Finally, she approaches Greg and asks him if he knew anyone who would be willing to tell law enforcement that they had killed Abraham.
What?
Yeah. Dee Dee tells him that he and the other person would have to dig up the body and move it to another location, and she would pay them $50,000 if they took the rap. Somebody who's going to jail anyway, right?
Gee whiz.
And Gregory tells Dee Dee that I got a guy for that. I got a guy for you.
Yeah.
And that she needs to meet him. And his name is Mike Smith. And Mike Smith, no relation to Greg Smith, is an undercover cop.
And you know what's funny about this is that Married to the Mob with Matthew Modine,
Yeah.
he's an undercover cop, and his name is Mike Smith.
Is it really?
It is. Hi, I'm Mike Smith. That's when you heard that name, I'm like, okay, that's an obvious name. Jeez.
Well, Mike Smith is actually on loan from another county.
Okay.
Because he had worked on a lot of undercover drug deals. And apparently he was like 6'5", built like Larry Kennebrew, if you even know who that is.
Yeah.
He's no longer in the NFL. He looked like an NFL football player. He's a
Okay.
big guy.
Okay. Didn't look like Matthew Modine.
Did not look like Matthew Modine. He was scary. He was scary looking.
Wow.
And on January 21st, 2010, Dee Dee meets Mike Smith, who tells her that he will take the rap for the murder for the money, but he needed to know where the body was buried. And she tells him, I'll tell you the location of the body, and I also have the gun that killed him.
Oh, here's my present to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dee Dee and Mike Smith come up with a plan that he would dig the body up at night and move it to another location so that Mike could then tell police when he confesses where he buried Abraham's body.
Why would she even think that anyone would do that?
This is the same woman who was pretended to be raped and
Yeah, I know.
carjacked to
I
keep
know.
her navigator
Yeah.
from being repoed.
I mean, there's stupid and then there's really
Well,
stupid.
here's the thing. She thinks she's really smart. And the police will say when she talks, she's a pathological liar.
Right.
And when she talks to them, she's really convincing at first. Let me call him. I'll call him. I'll get a message back from him. In the beginning, they're thinking, okay, she obviously knows him.
Right.
She's going to get a message back.
Yeah.
But it just got weirder and more hinky. It got hinkier and hinkier.
For $50,000, I'm going to go to jail for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But Dee Dee meets Mike Smith, and Dee Dee gives him a Smith & Wesson .38 caliber revolver and told him, here's the weapon. This is the weapon that killed Abraham Shakespeare.
Jeez.
He tells Dee Dee that he would agree to the $50,000 for taking responsibility for the death, but he tells her, I need to know exactly where this body is. Don't send me on a wild goose chase. And she draws him a map. Draws him a map.
This is just too good.
Later that same day, Dee Dee took Greg Smith, who's the informant, remember, to the police station, not Mike. Mike's
Right.
the undercover guy who's going to take the rap.
Right.
She takes Greg with her to 5802 Highway 60 East in Plant City,
Right.
and she shows him the concrete slab behind the residence. And she pointed to the location where the body was buried. So Mike and Greg now know.
Why didn't she just put it on Facebook?
She had actually placed a piece of a steel bar on the slab to mark the spot.
Wow.
Yeah. And they agree the body's going to be removed from the grave that night at 8 p.m. Dee Dee told Greg that she was leaving behind a white Ford F-150 pickup truck with an enclosed trailer attached to it to be used to transport the body. She gave the keys to the truck to Mike Smith. Dee Dee showed him the contents of the trailer, which she had purchased, that consisted of a galvanized metal trough, bleach, gloves, duct tape, Lysol, a broom, plastic sheeting. Yeah.
This is like every detective's dream.
It kind of is.
Oh my God.
Because Dee Dee still had the receipts from the trips to Sam's Club and Walmart where she bought all the supplies and a Frappuccino.
This I wish I had this for my bless your heart.
Can you believe that? She buys all this stuff to get this body out, but on top of it all, she gets herself a Frappuccino.
Oh, man. Okay.
It's still January 25th of 2010, and Dee Dee tells the police that drug dealers who came with Abraham to her office killed him, grabbing her gun out of an open safe to use as a weapon. And when investigators push her a little harder on this story, she changes it and alludes to the idea that her 14-year-old son, RJ, had killed Abraham.
She's throwing her own son under the bus?
Yep. Then she changes her story a third time and says she killed Abraham in self-defense. And by the end of that interview, she was asking police if she told the truth, could she, quote, keep all of her things, end quote.
Oh, pathetic. Bless her heart.
Then Dee Dee said Howard Stitzel, the attorney who'd drawn up a bunch of papers that Abraham had signed, came to her office with two, quote, white drug dealers, end quote, and an argument happened, and Abraham tried to shoot the attorney, but his gun jammed, and Howard Stitzel grabbed the gun from her safe and shot him in the chest.
Everybody shot him.
The attorney, Stitzel, and one of the drug dealers left, and the second one told her to have a hole dug, and he would take care of the body.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, she wanted to write a book, but she should have been writing some fiction, because that's all she spews.
Yep.
On January 26th, search warrants were served on two separate properties owned by Dee Dee, her house and the other house that was right next door,
Right.
that she purchased. It would take them 3 days to break through the concrete slab that was poured to get to Abraham. And on January 29th, 2010, members of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office recovered human remains approximately 9 feet beneath the surface.
Wow.
In the location where the metal bar was left by Dee Dee Moore.
Man.
She had cut out all of the zippers, anything that was metal on his body had been cut away. She didn't want a metal detector to be able to find him.
Of course.
The remains were identified to be that of Abraham Shakespeare by way of fingerprints. The county medical examiner's office determined the manner of death for Abraham was homicidal violence. He was wearing the exact same clothes he had on in the video that Dee Dee showed the police when he was saying that he wanted to get away from the madness surrounding his lottery win.
Wow.
That was April 9th, 2009. So she got her video and then she killed him.
Yep.
After they have a body, February 2nd, 2010, police take Dee Dee Moore into custody. She's charged with accessory after the fact, and now the jig is up. Yeah. And while being questioned, Dee Dee admitted to Polk County Sheriff's Office detectives Wallace and Clark that she had purchased bags of lime to be placed over Abraham's body when it was buried. But that's not all she admitted to. While they're questioning her, while Detective David Clark is questioning her, she propositions him. She tells him while he's questioning her that she hoped, quote, they could eventually have sex once the investigation was over, end quote.
She'll wrap her legs around you so tight you'll be begging for mercy.
She's got a pair, doesn't she?
She told him she was attracted to him and that she could get them a free room at the Hard Rock Cafe. She'd meet him there to perform sex acts.
Well, I'll stay away from her then.
Jeez.
Now, how you go from admitting that you bought lime to dissolve a dead body and make a pass at the detective questioning you is beyond me.
Yep.
But Dee Dee is doing it.
Man.
She wants police to believe that these drug dealers killed Abraham by taking her gun from her open safe and shooting Abraham. And as he went down, she tells police that he said 2 words, why, which I believe is the only truthful thing Dee Dee said in any of those interviews.
Yep.
On February 3rd, 2010, a judge set bond at $1 million for Dee Dee Moore. And on February 19th, Dee Dee is charged with first-degree murder. Less than a month later, on March 15th, Dee Dee pleaded not guilty.
Well, imagine that.
Yeah. During the trial, her now ex-boyfriend, the 23-year-old, took the stand. His name is Shar. He was living with her in that home of Abraham that she purchased from him.
Right.
Shar told the court that Dee Dee kept weapons in the house, including the one that prosecutors held up in court that killed Abraham. By the way, when police went to him after they arrest Dee Dee and they said, look it, son, do you know who you're living with? He cooperated with authorities from the get-go.
Of course.
He said, anything that she gave me with my name on it, I signed. I just did whatever Dee Dee told me to do.
Right.
Dee Dee's team also tried to cast doubt on Greg Smith's testimony. He told the court that Dee Dee enlisted him to conceal Abraham's whereabouts. Greg wore a wire. He's the one who wore the wire as the informant.
Right.
But Dee Dee's attorney said that Greg was trying to frame Dee Dee because he owed more than $60,000 to Abraham and couldn't pay it back.
Right.
Greg told the court he turned informant because he wanted to find his friend. To which, of course, the defense wants to talk about Greg's criminal record.
Sure.
Also during this trial, the jurors had to get security detail. The jury.
Wow.
The jurors have to get security detail because they're being intimidated by Abraham's friends and family, including Greg Smith, who intimidated them in the parking lot after court would adjourn for the day.
Good grief.
And Judge Emmett Battles, his name is Battles, and he's a judge. Judge Emmett Battles even has to warn Dee Dee while in court to stop making faces at the jury. She's given them the stink face.
Wow.
Quote, Miss Moore, I've cautioned you throughout these proceedings. I'm warning you. I think I'm going to make it clear for the last time, end quote. She keeps nodding or gesturing to the jury members during the witness testimonies and when evidence is presented.
Sure.
On December 10th, 2012, Dee Dee Moore was found guilty of murder. A day later, on December 11th, she was sentenced to mandatory life without parole by the judge who called her, quote, cold, calculating, and cruel, end quote. That's hip, hip, hurrah for alliteration there, Judge.
It is.
Dee Dee was sentenced to an additional 25 years for using a gun in the commission of a felony. In 2023, Dee Dee sought to be released from prison or to be given a new trial. In her initial filing from 2017, Dee Dee made 4 claims of ineffective assistance of counsel, 3 based on her trial and 1 citing alleged failures of her appellate attorney. In April 2019, Moore expanded on those claims in a 48-page amended motion, which included a 10-page handwritten addendum.
Wow.
And in that filing, Dee Dee listed 12 grounds for seeking either a nullification of her sentence or a new trial. All involved claims that her attorney did a terrible job defending her during the trial.
Wah.
Dee Dee claimed that evidence showed Abraham Shakespeare was alive months after the date prosecutors asserted that she had killed him, and she wrote that her attorney failed to investigate and present supporting evidence of this. She said that her attorney failed to call witnesses who could have refuted the prosecution's narrative. Dee Dee, you killed him.
Yeah.
You did. You murdered him.
He wasn't around.
Yeah. Yeah. Among other points, Dee Dee claimed that her attorney should have filed a motion to block, quote, highly prejudicial, end quote, statements from a detective who said she had offered to get him a free room at the Hard Rock Casino in Tampa and perform sex acts for him.
Oh,
Poor David Clark.
Yeah, exactly.
Dee Dee wrote that her attorney failed to present a, quote, reasonable hypothesis of innocence, end quote, to the jury.
Wow.
Then in the amended motion, Dee Dee also alleged prosecutorial misconduct, that was hard to say,
Yeah.
claiming that the state manipulated evidence during the trial and failed to share evidence favorable to her. She said that the prosecutors allowed false testimony from witnesses. Andrew Warren, then the state attorney for the 13th Judicial Circuit, filed a detailed response in 2020, rebuting Dee Dee's claims. He conceded that an evidentiary hearing was needed to resolve parts of 2 claims involving blood and DNA evidence. At this hearing, Dee Dee claimed that Lakeland police officers were taking bribes from drug dealers. A drug dealer named, quote, Ronald, end quote, and a fearless and undercover cop were all involved from the beginning in Abraham's death. And a spokesperson for the Lakeland Police Department said that LPD had no comment on that allegation.
Man.
But here's the problem. Dee Dee also wrote a handwritten letter apologizing to Abraham's family and the prosecutor for all the pain and anguish she caused. Yet she denied being the real killer, instead pointing the finger at witness Greg Smith, who testified at her trial, or his attorney, Stitzel,
Right.
and the undercover cop.
Sure.
Now Dee Dee says that Greg Smith had a motive for murder because Abraham was having an affair with his wife. Yeah.
Man.
With Greg Smith's wife.
Yeah, she got in the wrong business. She should have been writing fiction.
Yeah, so it's not just that he owed Abraham money.
Yeah.
And Dee Dee says there's a witness who can back up her claims. But in a surprising setback to her case during a hearing, her attorney announced that that witness had died recently. Florida appeals courts upheld Dee Dee's convictions in 2015 and 2019. I looked high and low for information on whether it's been decided if she gets another trial after her 2023 appeal. But I couldn't find anything, so I believe it's probably still in limbo. It's just tied up in court.
Right.
But remember I told you about Abraham's son, Moses?
Yeah.
In 2017, Antoinette Andrews, the mother of Shakespeare's son, won $1 million off of a $20 scratch-off.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. These people, they've got the luck. I need to go rub somebody's head.
Yep. She bought a Monopoly game ticket at the Circle K.
Wow.
And guess what?
What?
This $1 million trust was set up by Shakespeare for Moses.
Yeah.
It was to settle child support claims and to take care of him later.
Right.
And now he has another $1 million on top of that.
Good for him.
That his mom won.
Good for him.
Moses got his $1 million when he turned 18.
Good for him.
Now, several states allow lottery winners to remain anonymous. Lottery winners in South Carolina, Kansas, Texas, Delaware, Ohio, North Dakota, and Maryland can remain anonymous. Some states allow a lottery winner to form an entity or trust and claim the lottery prize that way. And others, like California, do not allow lottery winners to hide their identities in any way.
That's ridiculous.
Governor Ron DeSantis signed House Bill 159 into law after near unanimous passage by state legislators. One state senator and one state representative opposed the bill. Florida now requires lottery winners to supply their name and city of residence, but House Bill 159 that went into effect in May of 2022 gives lottery winners a short window to get their affairs in order before their identities are revealed. Yeah.
Okay.
The identities of Florida lottery players who win over $250,000 are now protected for 90 days.
Gotcha.
As for Dee Dee, she's serving her life sentence at Lowell Correctional Institute in Ocala, Florida, and I believe she's awaiting a decision to see if she gets another trial. She continues to maintain her innocence.
Of course she does.
But that is the sad lottery story of Abraham Shakespeare and Dee Dee Moore, who wanted more. And that's all I have to say about that.
Dee Dee, well, I said it earlier, she was in the wrong business. She should have been writing fiction. That was crazy. What a ride.
Yeah, well, pathological liar. So you got to
Yeah.
lie to cover up a lie to cover
Yeah.
up a lie.
It was a house of cards.
And you just have to keep making up new stuff.
Yeah.
And she was making up a lot of new stuff. I don't know that she was a biography writer, which was what she wanted to do with Abraham.
Oh.
But
wow.
just, I mean, what a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
You know, if you win the lottery, just be careful.
Yeah.
Be
Exactly.
careful.
Yep.
Be very careful.
Wow. Wow. Well, like I said earlier, this was more like a bless your heart episode than anything. But
Well, except that we lost Abraham.
yeah, we sure did. Well, let's go to some more lighthearted bless your hearts. All right, number one, we're going to start off this one by calling it His Student Loan Officer Was Fine with the Plan.
All right.
Yep, a bank robber who wore the headgear of a University of Wisconsin mascot, Bucky Badger, told police that he needed the money because he has a $250,000 loan in student debt and that he wants to go to prison.
Wow.
Randall Hubbatch, 49, told detectives
He's
that...
a 49-year-old with the mascot head on?
Yep.
Okay.
Told detectives that he would confess if prosecutors promised to send him away for a long time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, I have nothing to say, and if released, I will do it again.
Oh.
He said.
Okay.
He was telling police that, reports the Wisconsin State Journal.
He just wanted to go to jail.
He didn't want to pay that loan back. The so-called Badger Bandit earned his bachelor's in English in 1998 and a law degree
Oh, wow.
in 2004.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's got some debt.
Yeah. So I guess he looked at the law and went, you know what? I think if I go rob a bank, they'll just put me in prison. I won't have to pay all this back.
I'll get 3 squares a day.
Yeah. So he was prosecuted.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Bless his heart. I feel bad for him.
God, that's
Go
good.
past the bar and make a bunch of money as an attorney.
Yeah, he must not have been very good. Okay, number 2, I'm calling, how'd that get in there?
How did that get in there?
David Ratliff, 43, was passed out behind the wheel of his car on Friday in the parking lot of a video store on U.S. Route 421 in Manchester, which is about 100 miles south of Lexington.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they have a video store still in Manchester, Kentucky. All right, I'm buying it.
Okay.
I agree. There might be one there.
Yeah. When police arrived at the scene and asked a drugged out Ratliff for his ID, he rummaged around in his pocket for his ID and whipped out a baggie of meth pills and a large sum of U.S. currency.
That does not look like a Kentucky driver's license
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. Well, needless to say, Ratliff was apprehended and prosecuted.
Bless his heart. Oh, bless his heart. Oh.
Okay, this next one is a little sick, but it's still kind of funny. And I'm
Sick but kind of funny, okay?
I'm calling it Oedipus Rex,
Oh, no.
but it's Oedipus RX.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was apparently a Freudian slip of the tongue when a mother was arrested after authorities said she slipped drugs to her son in a New York jail during an open mouth kiss.
Ew.
You know? Yeah. Kimberly Margson, 54, is alleged to have given William Partridge, 30, the oxycodone pills when they locked lips during a jailhouse visit, reports the Smoking Gun website.
Yuck.
Yep, 2 powerful painkiller pills passed from her mouth to her son's mouth when she kissed him, according to the Yates County Sheriff's.
Then what did he do with them?
Who knows?
Just spit them out? What?
Yeah, Mom was charged with a felony drug count. She and Partridge were also each charged with promoting prison contraband.
Good Lord. I don't even want to say bless your heart. I mean, come on, man.
It's just sick.
Come on. He probably did that, coughed into his hand.
Yeah.
And now I have 2 oxys in my hand.
What are you doing, Mom?
Good Lord. An open mouth kiss.
It's wrong on so many levels.
So many levels.
Yeah. I can't even call that one a bless your heart.
I know. I said, come on, man.
No.
Come on, man.
Yeah. That's it. I don't have any more. Go.
Well, if you have a bless your heart. I thought there was more. I don't know what I was waiting for.
I don't know.
If you have a bless your heart or you know somebody's heart who needs blessing, all you got to do is go to hitchtohomicide.com when you get that. When you get there, we're falling apart, honey.
And you get to witness it all.
When you get there, you can find a pull-down menu where you can also suggest a case or tell us about your brush with true crime. I'm going to untwist my tongue now.
Okay.
That's my amazing husband out there.
That's my beautiful bride in the booth.
Join us next time on Hitch to Homicide.
Bye, y'all.